What's up, hockey fans? Happy Thursday. What a wild week in hockey it has been, and it's going to be even a lot more wild on today's show because I have a feeling that guy over there, Colby Cohen, is going to have a lot of things to say, and I'm probably going to shut my mouth for most of this show. So that's Colby. I'm Jonny Lazarus. This is Morning Cup of Hockey presented by Betway. If you're going to place a bet on Betway. Please play responsibly, and remember, you must be 19 years of age or older. We're going to talk about the Colorado Avalanche staying alive last night. We'll get into the two games that are going on tonight. And we'll get into this whole London Knights situation. But I think
we're going to get into that. We're going to start with the London Knights and the Ontario Hockey League. And if there was ever an advertisement for why you shouldn't send your hockey player to play in the Ontario Hockey League, Exhibit A. And I know this story is making the rounds right now. And I know that the first time that I saw it yesterday was when Jay Rosehill was talking about it.
Yeah, same here.
On the Hockey Fights podcast on the Nation Network. I should probably know the name of that, but I forget at the very moment. And when I heard him talking about it, I was like, there has to be more to this story. Like I was thinking there's just no way this is how it went down. And then the Hockey News writes an article about it. It starts catching a little bit wind, then I read the article about it, and I got to tell you something. I'm laying there in bed and I'm reading this article last night. I'm watching Dallas versus Colorado, and I am just smoking. Smoke is coming out of my ears. I just cannot believe this is what we are reading about during the OHL playoffs between two teams vying to go to the Memorial Cup, which is a huge, huge deal in Canada.
Maybe we could throw the article link in the chat.
And when you read an article online about two hockey players, okay, and I'm going to use the word here, and I am sorry if it hurts anybody's ears, but you are talking about two kids who are not considered amateurs. The Ontario Hockey League, the CHL, it's not amateur, all right? They're getting paid money. They're living away from home. And you have one player who tells another player they're going to break his shoulder. And the response to that is, no, you won't, because you are a pussy. Are you fucking kidding me? The kid runs over to the ref, tells the ref. I mean, let's just start with that guy on Saginaw. Yeah. Jonny, if that was my teammate and he went and told on another guy on the ice for saying the word pussy, okay, and that guy then turned around and got suspended, I would honestly probably try to fight that guy in practice during playoffs.
I said when we hopped on, Colby, if I was the coach of Saginaw, I would suspend my own player for 5 games.
I mean, that is the worst and softest mentality. Are you joking me? And yeah. I do not look. Some people are going to say, "Oh, you sound archaic," blah blah blah. No, okay, no, I'm sorry. If that's the angle you're coming at for this, then you don't just get away from the game of hockey. The game of hockey is physical. The game of hockey is full of talking shit.
This kid also said he's going to break the other kid's shoulder.
They punch each other in the head, and then after a game, there's no hard feelings. This is a contact sport. Is the OHL going to next take hitting out of the game? Are they going to turn it into flag hockey where you want to get the puck from someone? You got to pull their flag. Are you kidding me? Like, are you fucking joking me? You're suspending a player 5 games, no appeals process. And then we were made aware by Olivia, who comes on our show and is in the chat pretty frequently. She's a London Knights fan. And she let us know that the player that this transpired with, okay, the Saginaw Spirit player, his father is the director of officiating for the Ontario Hockey League, which makes this even worse because now this looks like the Saginaw Spirit are doing what they're doing to hurt London and remove a player who's not a superstar player. It doesn't matter. The kid's name is Landon Sim. I remember watching his dad play for the Philadelphia Flyers. But now this kid's going to have to sit out games of the Memorial Cup, which the London Knights absolutely spanked Saginaw. Now, the Memorial Cup is in Saginaw, so Saginaw gets to play in it anyway, and they're going to now be without this kid for 5 games. This is a disgrace. There needs to be an absolute uproar against the Ontario Hockey League for this. Nobody in hockey should feel okay or good about this. This is disgraceful. Look, there are certainly lines you can cross with quote unquote hate speech, okay? But I'm sorry. We need to back off being so soft about words, okay? This is not hate speech. This is not racist. This is none of the buzzwords of today that can get you in trouble for politically correct speech. Are you kidding me? The OHL looks like a joke right now. They look like an absolute joke. And I hope this story really catches wind. I hope Toronto radio is talking about it. I hope all NHL radio is starting to talk about it. And I know certain people are going to leave it alone just because they're too scared to have an opinion about anything, because everybody's always so worried about hurting someone's feelings in the world that we live in today. But are you, even you, Jonny,
What?
you're soft as it gets. And even you okay with this.
Well, I just think the fact that, listen, we're also in a world where we're trying to get away from like people threatening other people, right? Like that's also a part of today's world. And this kid literally said, "I'm going to break your shoulder." And he's the one who doesn't get punished. Like the other kid didn't even really say anything or threaten him. He just used a word that I guess some people have a problem with today, which is, an OHL executive said in the article, and I have it pulled up right here. Let me get the quote. He goes, "If you're going to suspend a guy for that, they better get ready to give out 20 suspensions a game." Like, Colby, I know what you said. Like, we're in a world now that's offended by words and everything. And listen, people choose to be offended by what they want to be offended by. But there's, I grew up in the sticks and stones may break my bones, but words can never hurt me era. And I know that's how most people grew up. And, it's getting to a point now where, like, what can you, it's in sports, like, what can you really do? Like,
well,
and
here's the reality. Part of the game of hockey is trying to intimidate your opponent. It's a physical sport, okay? It is a physical, mean game, and you want to intimidate guys.
Yeah, why am I catching strays, by the way? Joe Albany said in the chat.
Guys, you know how many times in the American League a guy said, "I'm going to kill you"? Do you think I thought they were going to actually kill me? It's words, it's battle, it's compete. This is a game. For 60 minutes, you put on your equipment, you go out on the ice, and you're allowed to fight. And when you fight, you don't go to jail for assault like you do when you leave the game. This is a game. This is a physical sport. This is a hitting sport. There's shit talking. Why can we not let athletes and people who choose to sign up for this be what they want to be? And you know what's going on right now. Hockey Canada won't get involved in this because they're worried because of all the other mistakes that they've made. And boy, have they made plenty. And that's all this is. They're trying to make up for their wrongdoings in other areas. And that is complete and utter bullshit, because this is, I got to tell you something. I've been racking my brain about this since last night.
We spent a lot of time on this too.
The biggest embarrassment of a suspension in high-level hockey of all time. I honestly, I would be hard-pressed, and I can't think of one, and maybe other people can, and you want to drop it in the chat, you want to message us on social media and tell us, fine. I cannot think of a bigger joke of a suspension in high-level hockey that I've ever seen or heard in my entire life. And when I put this on X last night, everybody responded the same way. Never do you put an opinion on social media and everyone agrees, especially me. Okay. It's usually the complete opposite. But everybody agreed. And this is not people who are going, "Oh, when I used to play," or, "Oh, when, back in the 70s. No. Go to a playground. Okay. I take my daughter to a playground and kids are talking shit to each other at the playground. And most of them are probably friends. Okay. Like, I had a fist fight with my roommate in college in practice. We said mean things to each other. And then we went to the dining hall. Stop trying to ruin hockey, CHL. You're taking fighting out of the queue. Now you can't swear in the O. Are you joking me? Like, get a different job if it's not cut out for you. The OHL commissioner, and I have his name right here, David Branch, okay? That guy should be ashamed of himself. And I'm pretty sure this is his last season. I'm pretty sure he's done after this year. He's retiring or he's moving on or whatever. But this is a joke. This is an absolute joke of a suspension. It makes me absolutely irate. And I'm telling you right now, if you're an agent, this is an advertisement. Why not to send your player to the CHL right now? Because it's scary. You're taking fighting out of one league. You can't curse in another. What's going to come out of the WHL next? You got to play left-handed if you're a righty. I don't understand what the thought process is on a situation like that. And when we get the information that the kid who was the Tattletale's father is the director of officiating, man, that makes it a hell of a lot worse than it even was. And we didn't even learn about that till this morning. I mean,
thank you to honestly, Olivia for all the information she put in the chat this morning.
It's like, I mean, you play street hockey. I see John Goyens in our chat just said, I chirp my 7-year-old in street hockey. I'm sure my dad used to cross-check me in our basement and call me that word exactly and tell me to fight through it, you know? And so stop taking everything so literally. Stop taking everything so personally. It's not all hate speech. Just fucking stop it, okay? Just stop it. I take the ball, Johnny. I'm like sweating over here. I need to drink a little bit of water. My internal body temperature is a lot higher than it normally is at 9 o'clock in the morning. But this type of shit just makes my blood boil because it feels like a little bit of a microcosm of other things that we're seeing that really, really irk me on a day-to-day basis. Really, really irk me on a day-to-day basis.
Colby needs a OHL roast on Comedy Central. But
and let me say the other thing. The London Knights are, you know, when you think of the OHL, that's like the first team you think of, the London Knights. And you think of, I mean, some of the best players I ever played with, including Patrick Kane, Sam Gagner, all those guys came through that program. And I've never heard anything but really good things about that program, the way their ownership has always been committed to winning, the way the Hunters have treated that program and treated players and developed players. You know, Basil McRae was involved with that organization. So that's a gold star organization. It always has been, especially as someone who doesn't look at the OHL that closely, but keeps an eye on hockey in general and in those areas. But this whole thing, man, I cannot understand, you know, 10-game suspension, any game suspension, even a minor penalty for something this stupid, and to have no appeals process. Listen, they should sue the league. I honestly hope they sue the league. That's how ridiculous this is. You're going to be ridiculous. Well, then we're going to be ridiculous.
And JE in the chat said this has reminded me of Sarcastaball episode of South Park, which is so true. I love that episode.
Anytime it mirrors South Park, you're like, oh God, are we really here? Are we really here?
I don't really have much else to say. I think this is one of those things where, like you said, Colby, everyone's in agreement. You know, I don't think anyone will look at the situation and be like, oh yeah, I agree. That kid did the right thing by telling the ref, you know? So, I think we should just move on unless you have one final thought on it. But
no, that's it. I mean, I'm hot about this, and I'm going to be carrying on about this on social media all day. And, you know, this is just, it's ridiculous. This isn't the type of thing that can go unchecked. It's not, it's just not.
Yeah. Okay. So let's talk about the Colorado Avalanche Dallas Stars last night, game 5. We talked about it on the show yesterday. It felt like home teams up 3-1 aren't able to put teams away in those game 5s, and now those teams are 0-3 this week. So something's going on there with home teams. But the Colorado Avalanche, it seemed like they were kind of down and out. You know, Dallas scores that second goal, that Miro Heiskanen goal, a beautiful play. I forgot who gave the pass. Who was the player that caught the pass in the 2-on-0? Who gave the pass? Robertson. Yeah, it was a great dish, 2-on-0 NHL style.
Look, do we have that goal? Because you rarely see the drop play on a power play work anymore, because most teams are stacking 3 guys across the blue line. But
every team still does it.
I know everybody does
Yeah.
it. The drop play has kind of evolved. It's no longer the middle drop. Now teams are dropping it on the
side.
wall.
Yeah.
But what happens there is Sammy Girard is in the middle and he gets caught flat-footed, and so Heiskanen's able to get around him. And I forget who was on the strong side who, gets caught a little bit cheating up the ice. And this is, a highlight that we got from Sportsnet. So go ahead and roll this clip. And you see Heiskanen is the guy who's going to be the eventual goal scorer, but they make this drop play and then freeze it right there, Vic. It's Lehkonen is the guy who's caught between the red line and the blue line there. Your job is to continue to accept that rush, but you've got to match Robertson's speed there. That's what you're talking about on a 3 across type of situation on one of these drop backs. So go ahead and roll this and watch Lehkonen. He gets caught right there. And then also Sammy Girard gets, caught in the middle. And the guy who started the play behind the net is the eventual goal scorer. You rarely see the drop play work that efficiently anymore. But you've got two guys who just have that quickness. And look, Sammy Girard can skate. That's not a slow player. So,
but I was going to say too, Colby, just the way Robertson received that pass and was moving and was able to break away with speed like that, that's not an easy play to make. And I know you get on me when I'm like, oh, that was one of the best plays I've ever seen. But, seeing Jason Robertson, Vic, if we can pull that clip up one more time.
And the other thing too, Manson is also caught on the other side. So you just aren't matching enough speed. Manson had a tough game last night. He was on the wrong side of a number of plays last night.
He got blown up too.
A little bit uncharacteristic of himself, but yeah, you can't let guys with speed get behind all three. You saw Manson on the far side, same thing. I know John Goyens, who is an absolute video assassin, pointing that out in the chat. There's nobody who digs harder on a detail of every play than John Goyens. If you have an opportunity, go check his workout on the Daily Faceoff YouTube. He does a segment on DFO Live called The Coach's Room. It seems like it's a couple of days a week right now, and I know it just from doing that show. But that is just kind of a major miss, really structurally in the neutral zone. And again, you don't see it happen that often anymore on penalty kills and power plays. But look, you give Colorado credit.
I thought they were done after that goal.
They stuck with it. I thought the first period was probably the big turning point of that hockey game is when the Colorado Avalanche score a goal with less than a second to go in the first period. I
think Tanev takes the penalty, that cross-check penalty to the face of Rantanen, I believe, and Kale scores in the power play.
Yeah, but I just think
a silly penalty leads to a tying power play goal.
I believe that goal, getting that goal going into the locker room 1-1 in the elimination game rather than down 1-0, it just gives you such a different level of belief and kind of energy in your locker room against a Stars team that in the first period, they kept coming. Like, it wasn't crazy lopsided, but you saw in the first period, the Dallas Stars forecheck was really, really efficient. They were making plays. Josh Manson coughed a couple up. You see that F1 doing such a good job eliminating, and then F2 was jumping pucks and making smart and quick reads. And then in the second and the third period, Dallas's forecheck was nowhere near as efficient. That's when Makar, that's when Girard, that's when Taves started using their feet better. Guys were running little bits of interference just to give a little bit of extra time. And so, that to me was where Dallas started to falter in that game, was their their forecheck wasn't creating offense like they have all season or all series. And then all of a sudden the Colorado power play comes alive, and at one point they're 2 for 2. They get a couple of big goals. Our guy, Nate McKinnon, we picked him as anytime goal scorer for our Betway bet of the day. He hit for us last night, but ultimately this game seemed like it was going to go towards Dallas, but I said on the show yesterday, Johnny, I thought Colorado would have enough push to keep this series going.
Yeah, you'd have to think that with the firepower Colorado has up front, they were bound to break through in one game, right? And last night, that fourth goal, Cale Makar's second goal that gets through Ottinger's legs.
That was a bad goal. I don't care it was redirected, but Jay can't let that goal in. And Jonny, how many mornings are we sitting here pointing at a soft goal that was the difference in a win or a loss in the playoffs?
Yeah.
I mean,
because Dallas answered right back. Logan Stankoven scored a goal to make it 4-3. And
on a terrible turnover by Colorado along the wall, like sloppy, careless turnover, trying to make that bump play out to McKinnon, and you give a free look to the net, and Stankoven does what goal scorers do. He rides the top of the circle. He puts himself in the lane. And then McKinnon answered. McKinnon was good last night, but Makar, but Makar was the difference. I mean, Cale Makar, the way he played, that lateral game of diving in, diving out, moving around. But look, we live on the offensive stuff, but how many times does he skate his team out of trouble? There's an alarming situation, and his feet just get them right out of trouble. And I mentioned Josh Manson again. I thought there have been times in the playoffs where Manson has tried to play to a different identity than I think what makes him successful. And I think that identity is simple, hard, efficient, good first pass hockey. And there have just been times in these playoffs where he's tried to go a little out and above his skis. And I think it's cost the Avs at times. And this is a player that I like, by the way, and that I respect. But I just think at times he's gotten over his skis.
This is an interesting question, or not question, but it's kind of a comment. Joshua Miller in the chat, and I want you to channel this a little bit. The Avs are the best team in the NHL unless we include goaltenders as part of the team. If you take away goalies, just think about skaters. Do you agree?
I mean, Jonny, you know how I
feel. That's why I said channel it. Just try to be not yourself for 2 minutes.
No, I don't think so. I really don't think so. Because I just look at depth, and I don't know
if they have it.
I don't know if up front they have it. I think their decor is phenomenal. But I just don't know. Are they as deep up front? Like, is Zach Parise still the same guy that he really was? Like, I'd
made a big play last night.
I know he did.
He had that deflection that led to the middle
that puck out of the air. But you look down the middle. I really grade teams about how deep they are when I look down the middle. And I think Casey Middlestat could work out there, but I don't think he's worked out yet. And I don't look. How often do you see a player just get traded and fit right in? It usually takes time. It just does. It usually can take players 6 months or a season, and then they come back that second season and they look like a different player after a trade like that. So, I don't think the Avs are the best team down the middle. And I think that is one of the reasons I wouldn't necessarily say they are. But look, they have a lot of top end. Their decor is unbelievable. And you're right. They get goaltending. Sometimes it's good. Sometimes it's average. But I appreciate the thought in that question, Josh, but I also think that's you're saying, are they the best team without the goaltender? The goaltender counts for 50%.
Colby doesn't do hypotheticals.
But a goal, that's the most important position on your team.
Can't you just take a question for what it is?
Well, I took the question, but I'm just like, it's how do you make that as a hypothetical? Because the goaltending is the most important position.
It's pretty easy just to think about what he's saying and make a decision. It's not that.
I mean, what do you think, Jonny? Do you think they're the best team in the league without the goalies?
So I was actually thinking this too when you brought up down the middle and you think about their top six. Do you take the Avalanche top six? And I know we're going to talk about the Rangers a little bit later, but would you take the Avalanche's top six right now over the New York Rangers top six? And I'll read Colorado's. It's Arturi Lehkonen, McKinnon, Druin, Parise, Middlestat, Rantanen. That's their top two lines. The Rangers, it's Kreider, Zibanejad, Roslovic, Panarin, Trocheck, Lafreniere.
Well, look,
I
think
like Zibanejad and Trocheck versus McKinnon and Middlestat down the middle. McKinnon obviously is probably the second best player in the NHL. I don't know if that's, you can argue that a little bit here and there.
No, I think that's fair.
Right. But then what's the drop off with Middlestat and Trocheck,
Yeah, well, I don't think right now there's a drop off with Trocheck. That's for sure. But I don't, here's my thing. Parise is not who he was. Middlestat has yet to really prove it to me. I think the top end of the top six of Colorado Sure. Like that's insane what they have in their top end. And especially if you have Landeskog playing and
Mhm.
Nichushkin, like those,
Yeah,
but
I
those
guess
guys
fully
aren't
healthy, it's
playing.
different. Yeah, fully healthy, it's different.
Nichushkin might never play for the Avs again. We have no
Yeah,
idea.
yeah.
Landeskog, we have no idea. So maybe fully healthy. Yeah, maybe if you add Landeskog to that bunch, Nichushkin to that bunch, it's a different story. But I don't know. I think I like the Rangers.
Yeah.
I think I like the depth of the top 6 of the Rangers better, but the top end, because again, Nate McKinnon is, some nights the best player in the league.
Mhm.
Yeah,
Even
sure.
even Rantanen is top 15.
And he's been a little hot and cold in these
Yeah.
playoffs for sure, but he's up there. That's why I'm saying like the top end, but the depth, like Zach Parise being in your top 6. And look, I don't, for whatever reason, Jonathan Drouin has always been a little bit of a blind spot for me. I know John Goyens
Well,
has worked with Drouin, and really, celebrates that player, and look what he's done in sort of reviving himself in Colorado. Like, good for him, because he had a bumpy road and he fought through it. And he had a great season and he was really valuable to his team. And so I always love when guys do that, because I think it's really hard to do. He's always been in a blind spot for me though, because he never did it for me in Montreal. And then I didn't see him enough this season, and I don't have enough viewings on him to have like a feel like I could give you a really fair evaluation of how I feel about his game. So,
he's a great skater when he's going. He can fly.
I know Alan Walsh is always tweeting about, his plays. I always see Alan Walsh tweeting his different plays that he makes. So, but yeah, I think that's an interesting question, top 6 wise, comparison wise, but I'd probably lean in a little bit more to the New York Rangers, but the New York Rangers are without a top 6 player. Phil Hedl looked like he turned into a top 6 player. He's not playing. I mean, you gave your boy years and years and years to turn into a top 6 guy. He looks like a legitimate top 6 player. Is Jack Roslovic a top 6 guy? No, he's not. I think that's a little bit of a hole for the Rangers in their top 6. That's why it would be so great if Hedl could have played a couple of games, gotten up to speed, and then had an opportunity to fall into the top 6. So although then he's, you're talking about different matchups for him after not playing for 6 months, which is pretty difficult. So anyways, it's a good question. Is a good talking point in the chat. We love when that stuff kind of comes up. And I see Jeremiah saying Drouin had a great year, and I hope you heard me say this, Jeremiah. I acknowledge that. I just, want to fairly acknowledge the fact that I just, for whatever reason, whether it's nights I watch them, he's out, he's been sick, he hasn't played. When he was in Montreal, he was in and out with different issues. So just not a guy I'm overly familiar with.
Yeah. And shout out Catherine Craig. She said, do you guys still do the show in the off season? Not sure. I don't know what I'd listen to while I work out in the morning without this show. So we love the support, Catherine. Thank you. And we'll let you guys know our off-season plan once that we're cross that bridge.
We're kind of working on that. Just to be transparent with you guys, I think our hope and our plan is to do a one day a week in the off season, maybe take 2 weeks off after the season, and then potentially go to 1 day a week. And maybe make it a longer episode, have a full 45-minute type of interview, and then spend another 45 minutes just kind of talking about what's going on. It probably won't be live just due to scheduling and summer, but we'll let you guys know, what's going on. Johnny and I got to negotiate a couple of new contracts with the network.
Contract year.
So we got to take care of the business side of this stuff. That's why we're always telling you guys, the likes and the subscribes go a really long way, especially for us as we, handle the other side of this with the network. So, but we do love what we do. We do love this community that we've built. It is pretty cool to see all these people that are constantly coming and taking part in this show. And there are days where, our plan is to have a 50-minute show that goes an hour and 20 minutes because you guys are engaging in the chat and it takes us in different directions. And that was always part of the goal of the show. And I'll give Johnny credit because that was sort of part of when we were creating the show and we were kind of putting together our vision. That was part of something that Johnny was always stressing, was the interaction part with you guys. So for once, I'll give Johnny full marks of credit. No shrapnel, no stray bullets. We'll give him a couple of clicks. And we'll give you credit for something here every once in a while.
And that's why Colby started the show with a 10-minute rant, because it's a contract year for him. So he's trying to really get it going here. But do we want to go into our OutWest Worst Team of the Week?
Yeah. This might surprise people.
Well, I'm leaving it open for you, but let's get into our OutWest.
No, you know who we're going with, and you're going to be the one to say why and talk about it.
Okay, I'm. Are we on the same page here?
Yes, we are. Yeah.
Okay.
You're getting your way.
Okay, so our OutWest Worst Team of the Week. What's brand new, comes in mint green and maroon, and makes you feel invincible? That's the OutWest Zakara Performance hoodies, which Colby and I are wearing right now. They actually got brand new colors, which are very nice and a little bit different. Colby isn't forced to wear the salmon one this morning, even though we've turned our taste over to the salmon. We like salmon, but that's right, ladies and gentlemen. The fellas at OutWest just dropped 2 brand new colors of hoodies on the site. Perfect for our foggy morning rounds on the course, just like it's been this week. Cool summer nights in the patio. Ignite your style this summer with a lightweight hoodie. Who doesn't love a classic mint green pair with a navy pair of shorts, or a true maroon styled with your favorite joggers? Head on over to outwestgolf.com and grab yours with code Cuppa, CUPPA, in all caps for 15% off of your first order. OutWest, every game needs an outlaw. And I actually wore mine yesterday too, but our worst team of the week this week.
Wait, hold on. Before we get into that, can we just give OutWest a little bit of love?
Yeah.
Look, let's be transparent.
Shout out our guy West, by the way.
OutWest, we do 1 day a week segment for OutWest. All of our other sponsors are 4 and 5, shows a week, lots of clips, Betways every day. Proraso's like 3-4 times, 3 days a week, I believe. Or no, sorry, we do Proraso every day as well.
Mm-hmm.
But these guys, who are our smallest sponsorship partner, we love them because their clothes are unbelievable. I got this color, which is kind of this like mint green, but it's really not. It's a gray with like a very low green, like mint hue to it. And I honestly, especially with the spring weather, it's 60 degrees this morning. So when I took the dogs for a walk, like whether we were doing our OutWest day or not on the show, I'm throwing this on. I really am. And one of the cool things is their logos they're not flat logos. These are not traditional heat press logos. These are raised 3D logos, more expensive, higher quality. Okay. The way that they put these on, and it just adds this sort of texture and 3D dimension. I have a little bit of a textile background, and there are certain things that I know about the textile industry and the clothing industry. These guys produce their clothes in Korea. Okay. South Korea is about as high quality of a production line you can find around the world. Italy obviously is really good. When I had my clothing company, we used to do a lot of our stuff in Portugal, but these guys are making their clothes in Korea, okay, in South Korea, obviously, not North Korea. And I'm telling you that only high quality manufacturers use Korea because it's more expensive to do it there. It's higher quality, it's better conditions in their factories, their fabric mills and everything. So these guys are not cutting corners, and like these are little details that I appreciate about them and about their clothing. Because again, it just tells me that they care about their product, and their products aren't going to fall apart. And that's why they're probably pretty expensive. But again, super high quality. Like I love these guys. I want to do more with these guys. I love that we asked for new stuff. They delivered us new colors. So now I have 4 of them. And we can rock them all the time. And like I said, I wear them when I ride the Peloton, and they're super comfortable.
And AJ asked if they have women's sizes yet. Not in these sweatshirts yet, but they do have women's vests. And we could actually mention to the guys at OutWest to make some women's sweatshirts as well, because we talk to them actually like week to week now too.
They're kind of short though. So like they're not a really long cut. So if you do want to buy the men's cut, it's probably not going to be super long on you. They're pretty narrow and they're not super long. So you might get an okay cut if you were to buy a small or like an extra small. I don't know if they do a men's extra small or whatever size that you think will fit you. But again, these guys are awesome. Like I got a handwritten note with mine. Their clothes are so comfortable. Like I'm super impressed. And again, the production thing made me even more impressed that it's not coming from like Bangladesh or China. Like it's coming from Korea, which is extremely high end manufacturing.
Mm-hmm. And with that, our worst team of the week this week is none other than the New York Rangers. Up 3-0. I started the morning production meeting by saying the Rangers blew the 3-0 lead. Colby claims they haven't blown the 3-0 lead because they still have a lead in the series, but around the team, not within the team, the vibes aren't as high. I was at practice yesterday, and everything is as it's been with the New York Rangers as far as the team goes. I sat down and spoke to Jonathan Quick one-on-one. That article is actually going to come out in 25 minutes here with the Daily Faceoff. But, Jonathan Quick, I thought he would be an interesting guy to talk to. He's been in every situation. He was with Vegas last year. They went up 3-0 against Dallas, lost the next 2 games, then won in game 6 on the road, the same exact position the Rangers are in right now. He's also been down 3-0 in a series, led his team to a 4 straight win comeback against the San Jose Sharks in the first round of 2014. In the Stanley Cup final in 2012, he had a 3-0 lead against the Devils. They lost the next 2 games, and they closed it out in 6. So he was a great guy to talk to, but the feeling around the Rangers, they're confident. They're going in to win 1 hockey game. They have 2 chances to do it. Nothing changes. And, while they are our OutWest Worst Team of the week, if you look at every other team in the playoffs right now that's up 3-2, and I know Edmonton and Vancouver play tonight, they're tied at 2 apiece. Colby, who do you feel the best about with the teams that are up 3-2, the chance to close it out on the road?
Well, I don't think Dallas should have any concern. They won 2 games already in Colorado in this series.
I do you want to talk about the Rangers first before you answer that? I don't know if.
Well, you asked me a question, so I was trying to answer it. Look, again, and I'm going to keep saying this: the New York Rangers, and we don't have a crystal ball, and look, I think that the New York. How many times this year have the New York Rangers lost 4 games in a row?
Once.
I'm asking you. Okay, 1 time. Okay, this is a team that's been good wire to wire. You get into a situation. You're playing on home ice. You get a little tight, I guess. You come out a little lackadaisical. A couple of your star players look like they hit a wall. There's a lot of, again, you've got a lot of ice time disparities. Guys are getting tired. It's getting physical. You're getting into the second round. Now you get a couple of days off to regroup. Look, I still believe the New York Rangers are going to get this done. I really do. And, of course, I'd love to see it go 7. I think game 7s are awesome. I know you don't want to see it go 7, and that's totally fair. I know Rangers fans don't want to see it go 7. But
I got a party on Saturday. I'd rather hang out with my friends.
Who the New York Rangers have been all year, and when someone tells you who they've been for a whole year, believe them. Okay, and the New York Rangers have told us all year that they are an elite hockey team in the NHL, and they're full of really good players. Some superstars, some really good, some good role players, a phenomenal goaltender, a good decor, so they've got good coaching. Like, I just don't think that they've blown this 3-2 lead or this 3-0 lead. They're still in the lead. They're still up in the series 3-2.
The 3-0 lead didn't have that 3-0 feel to it, right? Like, every game was tight, and people can shit on Rod Brindamore for the way he answers some questions in the media, but like, he was right in every aspect,
yeah, but I disagree with you on that. 3-0 lead is a 3-0 lead, Johnny. It does not matter how you win in playoffs. It can be 3 overtime games. It can be,
But do you agree that it didn't feel like 3-0?
No, I don't agree, because it was 3-0. This is a team that went out and found a way to win 3 games in a row in the playoffs in a hard manner. They won a game on the road in a very difficult building. They came up with the big moments in the right times. They got big saves when they needed it. Their special teams was big time. It did feel like 3-0 to me. Sure, is it a close series? Yeah, but it still felt like 3-0. It doesn't matter how many goals you win by. Goal differential in the playoffs doesn't mean shit. Wins and losses. And losses.
We have a comment from Jay Miller saying this is now the President's Trophy curse. It felt like it was gone, but this would definitely keep that conversation going if they don't get it done. But just to address one other comment, I believe it was Ben Benya that said it. Always good in the chat. He said every game is different. Momentum can't be looked at in this case. It's all about finishing. And to that point, the great quote I got from Jonathan Quick, I'll read it right now. This is what Quick said yesterday to me. There's no momentum that carries over from game to game. Whether you're down 3-0 and just 1-2, it doesn't fucking matter. You're trying to win a hockey game. It doesn't change your approach. And you can really feel that
win a game
within the room.
Start with a good first 5 minutes, and then you build from there. You don't want to get caught up in the overall. You want to focus on small increments in the playoffs. And, you're getting beat up a little here. Olivia said it's 3-0.
No, I know.
How does it not feel like 3-0?
I was just reading that because you can't. No, because no one can. If you disagree with this, then I will actually, I will question your brain and the way you think. 3-0 versus Washington didn't have the same feel in 3-0 versus Carolina.
Of course, because one team has a track record of being a really good team.
Chance. You give Washington no chance to come back.
Washington was a team that shouldn't have been in the playoffs. I mean, you're not comparing apples to apples here.
Nobody gave Washington a chance, and people still, with Carolina down 3-0, gave Carolina a chance.
Because Carolina was an odds-on favorite to win the Stanley Cup coming into the playoffs for a reason. But it doesn't mean it doesn't feel like 3-0. You still got to climb a mountain and win 4 straight games.
But it wasn't a commanding 3-0 lead.
Johnny, do you hear yourself? In a best of 7,
am I crazy here?
Yes. In a best of 7, how is 3-0 not a commanding lead?
Even Vic yelling at me
today. What is wrong with you?
Joshua Miller, Johnny needs to sit out 5 shows for cussing.
I mean, what are you talking about? It's not a commanding 3-0 lead.
Well, it could have really been 3-0 the other way.
You know what you're doing right now? You're
back.
You're talking yourself into a corner and you're spiraling and you're just making it worse. You're making it worse.
Okay.
No, you're not rotting. Don't compare yourself to your boyfriend from yesterday, okay? You're a Conn Smythe coach, all right? Who's still down in the second round and
I got Glenn on my side in the chat. Glenn's on my side. I got Glenn on my side. Glenn Hoffman in the chat. He agrees.
I mean, you're cracking me up right now. It's not a commanding lead at 3-0 in a best of 7. There isn't a bigger commanding lead that you can have in a best of 7 than 3-0.
I'm getting fucking torched right now.
Well, I mean, Johnny, I don't think you actually thought this one through. I really don't.
I don't think most things.
You're just thinking about not being in the locker room today and being able to sit next to Lafreniere and ask him questions in the stall next to him. That's where your mind is right now.
I will say my actual thought process. So 3-0 up against Washington. There was like zero. Like I didn't even need to watch Game 4. I didn't need to watch any other game in that series. I was like, you know what? This series is done. 3-0 against Carolina. There was no part of me that was sitting there. What? There was no part of me that was sitting there laughing.
New York Marine said, Johnny, if things don't carry from game to game, as you just admitted, a 3-0 lead is exactly that. Take a lap.
Damn. NY Marine, I thought we were boys, dude.
Oh man, you're on the wrong side of this one, Johnny boy. Yeah. You are on the wrong side of this one. But look, you can say anything and everything you want. A 3-0 lead is as commanding of a lead as you can have.
I'll fucking wear it and I'll own it and I'll stand by it.
Because you like to die on stupid hills. That's why.
Yeah.
You like to sit there and die on stupid hills. All right, look.
Colby, let's go into that game a little bit. What do you think? What do you make of Game 6?
Let's get into Pro Rasso first. All right.
Yeah. So let's talk about our lovely sponsor, Parasso. This is our Parasso playoff preview, the most complete choice for shaving and beard care. Made in Italy since 1948, Parasso has been a staple of Italian culture and barbershops globally for 4 generations. So get 15% off at parasso-usa.com with our promo code Hockey15 in all caps, Hockey15. Let's talk about Game 6 tonight between the New York Rangers and the Carolina Hurricanes. Colby, I don't know if you're making your way to New York City, but we're actually doing a viewing party at American Whiskey by Madison Square Garden too for the Blue Crew Pod. If you want to come by and have a few drinks, if anyone listening right now is in New York City that wants a place to hang out and watch the game, I'll be there. Come hang out. We'll do some Jello shots.
Are you buying?
I'll buy a couple rounds, but they're giving out Jello shots every time the Rangers score, which is a nice little touch. But it'll be fun.
I don't think I've had a Jello shot in a very long time.
I haven't gotten to watch a Ranger game as a fan in a long time.
What do you mean? You watch every Rangers game as a fan.
I thought I don't watch the games. Now you're giving me credit for watching the games?
You do. You watch the game through your cell phone and through your computer screen as you're feeding.
There it is.
You're a fan.
You know what I mean? Shut the fuck up.
You somehow you've weaseled your way into a press pass, but you are certainly not press.
I'm good at what I do. I'm good at my job. I will say that. But tell me what you think about this game tonight.
You wear jerseys in the press box, all right? Let's be honest.
I would if I could. I would if I could. But what do you think about the game tonight? Who do you think wins? What are you expecting to see?
Look, I think the building's going to be absolutely wild in Carolina tonight. I think a big question that I have will be is Philip Hedl going to be back in the lineup? I think he has the ability to sort of change the outlook of their bottom six. You throw him on that third line, and all of a sudden you kind of have a third line that has a little more of an offensive catalyst. With the speed, Hedl's the type of guy that can put defensemen back on their heels a little bit. Even a D-core like Carolina, you don't think so?
Mm.
Why do you say that?
With Hedl?
Mm-hmm.
He's been doing the extra bag skates. He wasn't made available to the media yesterday. There's some weird shit going on with Hedl. I don't know, what it is, but obviously it was an illness after game 4 that was reported. Then it was soreness, which all could be true, right? Like he didn't play for a long time. It was like 6-7 months thrown into a playoff game, pretty fast paced playoff game, but he wasn't with any lines yesterday. And I don't want to judge that too closely because when he did play, he wasn't working with the lines, at least in practice. They kind of kept it secretive that he was going to play. So I'm not totally ruling it out, but it's been a weird vibe around Hedl this week, and I just don't see him getting in the lineup with the way it's been handled.
Yeah, and they keep all these injuries pretty pretty close to the vest in the playoffs. So you never really know what's going on. But again, okay, so let's say he isn't going to play. Now the New York Rangers go on the road. They're not faced with the same pressure as trying to win and close out on home. They've got to get on a plane anyway to go back to New York no matter what. So that kind of goes out the window. I think the Rangers are going to get it done tonight. I really do.
I think so too.
I think they're going to get it done tonight. I think Shesterkin will have a big game. I think, their special teams will get themselves back going the right way. And look, their best players got to step up. If you want to sit there and write articles and post videos about how Lafreniere is a blossoming superstar, well, you can't afford to let him go quiet when it gets to be crunch time. Like, I want to see him now when their chips are and their backs are against the wall a little bit. I want to see him step up. It's one thing when everything's going right and everything's going your way. But now that line has gotten quiet. They were on the wrong side of things in the last game for sure. And so let's see Panarin, let's see Zibanejad, let's see Trocheck, get back up to that level we saw the first, couple of weeks of the playoffs. And I think that's going to be the difference. And so, yeah, I think the New York Rangers can get this game done tonight.
Well, here's another point too. J.E. just said tonight is Kreider's night, boys. But yesterday, Kreider took a maintenance day. And the way Laviolette phrased it in the press conference after practice was that he hopes Kreider will be good to go. So the way he worded it was a little concerning too, that maybe Chris Kreider won't be playing tonight if Laviolette said, we hope he's going to be good, not that it was like your typical maintenance day,
Yeah.
And I don't know if, it's tough to not read into wording sometimes this time of year.
And that's what they want. That's exactly what Lavi wants. He wants people to read into the wording, and he wants people to think a little bit about what's going on. I mean, look, the coach that has been manipulating the media and the fans more than anyone has just been Paul Maurice. I mean, he's just been on another level of his manipulation. And honestly, Maurice just knows how to take the pressure off his team and he's really done a good job of making himself sort of the focal point. And so they're not talking about the players. They're not talking about Bennett. They're not talking about the pressure. I think, Maurice has absolutely done a masterclass on that. So these coaches aren't dumb guys, man. They want you to read into that kind of thing. They know when a player's taking a maintenance day. They can throw out a couple of words in a sentence that can, alter the way other teams are looking at it. I sure hope Chris Kreider plays tonight. You want best on best. I mean, you hate when good players can't play in the playoffs. It's Ropa Hits didn't play last night for Dallas. That was that's a big deal for them, the speed that he brings. So, hopefully we'll find out more today. I mean, I'm sure you'll be keeping us informed on social media. You'll talk to your peeps out there in New York that are obviously around for the pregame skate this morning. Yeah, but I again, well, you're rolling the dice. It's 50-50. One team's going to win, one team's going to lose.
Yeah.
But the New York Rangers have told us who they are for a really long time. And I just think I'd be surprised to see them lose 3 games in a row, or 4 games in a row for that matter. I would be shocked. It doesn't mean it can't happen. But I would certainly be shocked.
And to that point, what I'll finish on, this is what Peter Laviolette said yesterday. I tweeted this quote out, asking him about, like, you learn about your team from series to series, right? And this is his first year at the team too. And, I asked him what he's learned from last round to this round. And this is what he said about going into game 6. The team has proven itself. You're in the playoffs. And now we're met with some challenges. We're going to look for a response in game 6. The history says that we'll play a much better game in game 6. Like, to your point, Colby, this team has bounced back all year long. They only had one losing streak that was more than 2 games. And it was that 4-game losing streak in January. They never lost 3 games in a row outside of that. So, they've had the ability to bounce back all year. And I'm actually curious to see if we see Freddie Anderson tonight, because, Anderson was taken out in game 3 for rest, by Rod Brindamore. So you'd think he goes back to Anderson, but I'm curious to see what Rod Brindamore does in net tonight.
Yeah. Tommy, just to address your comment in the chat that I said that there's more pressure on the Canes. I didn't say that there's more pressure on the Canes. I said there's less pressure on the Rangers because they're no longer at home. There's always more pressure on you to close out a series when you're at home. And there's a reason why teams that are even playing home games in the playoffs are sometimes putting their players up in a hotel the night before, having a team dinner, getting them out of the house, okay, and away from their family, because sometimes the night before a game, you never know, you have a sick kid, your kids are waking you up at 6 a.m., knocking on your door, trying to get in bed with mom and dad. And so the Bruins have been doing it. They've been staying at a hotel before big home games. And so when I say there's less pressure on the Rangers, that doesn't mean there's more pressure on Carolina. Carolina's playing with house money right now. They just got to keep winning to keep their season alive. So, you're mincing my words and into what I think you want to hear, but not what I actually said. I do not believe there's more pressure on the Carolina Hurricanes. The Carolina Hurricanes should feel nice and comfortable playing at home on a night where, that building is probably going to have a roof that's going to come off because it's going to be so loud in Raleigh tonight. So I did see Brett Pesce's back skating, which I think is a good thing. I'm not expecting to see him in the game tonight. But I do think that that's always a good sign. It gives guys, let's get one more. Let's win this one. We're going to get Pesce back, or let's get through these next couple of games and look who we have coming. I think that type of thing can give you a little bit of extra juice and a little bit of extra, mojo in the way that your legs feel. But at the end of the day, I think this series is kind of turning into what we'd hoped and what we had thought. But we'll see what happens. Like it's probably a game that's going to come down to a bounce. Probably going to be a close game, and we'll all be entertained watching this one tonight. Jonny, you might be, throwing up in the bathroom, but it'll certainly be entertaining.
Yeah. And Joe said, when do they skate? And they skated at 11:30 this morning. So look on Twitter for everyone that is there. I am not in Carolina, so I won't have any line updates or anything like that. You can follow Molly, Vince, and Dan Rosen, I think, are the 3 that are there. There might be some others going, but I know Arthur isn't going. Colin is probably going. But you know where to find people on Twitter to see the Rangers lines. And then NYR Marine said, I missed yesterday. Did you talk about them possibly going back to Miller and Trouba and then Gustafsson and Schneider? I'm in the minority who thinks it might be a good decision. And that's what Laviolette said yesterday. He said the combinations might not be what you see tonight, but in practice yesterday, Trouba and Miller were back together. I know a lot of Ranger fans do hate that. There was actually one really funny response. We tweeted out like that they were back together, and someone quoted it with a graphic of like, thank you fans, like as if the season was over. It was pretty fucking funny. Like I love when people are creative and can talk shit like that. But we'll see what they go with at 11:30 when they hop on the ice. And Colby, I think we just move on now to Vancouver and Edmonton, because we spent a lot of time talking about Rangers, Carolina. And I know we have other fan bases in this chat that want to hear about the West Coast.
Yeah.
A tough ending for the Vancouver Canucks in Game 4. But now they go back home in Game 5. What?
Did you see, and I'm sure everybody saw this, Pettersson's body language in his media availability? That is troubling. I mean, look, if you don't want to answer questions and you want to be a dickhead to media, like that's fine. I got no problem with that, because media is generally a dickhead to you. and to all players and most players. So I have no problem with that. But the defeated body language from Elias Pettersson yesterday, man, if I'm Rick Tocchet and I know Talk a little bit, his blood has to boil when he sees that. I mean, look at the difference between him and JT Miller, a guy who sends Rick Tocchet a text message the next day, because he's still so upset with himself on that goal and the way that he played, apologizing. I mean, that's leadership right there, coming out of JT Miller versus Pettersson, who, again, Frank Saravalli said it. The guy's been on a milk carton all playoffs.
Yeah, I mean, that said it all, right? Like you just said, what was it? Good question. When the question was like, why has your production gone down the last 3 months? Not even to come up with something. It's a defeated feeling, I'm sure, that he has. And listen, when players feel that, some crumble and some rise to the occasion. And it seems like Pettersson's one of those guys who crumbles. And Colby, when we talked about his contract, it's 11.6. We said, when you said that number is going to start with a 12, I think we talked about his playoff experience. Like, he's only played playoff hockey in the bubble. He's never really had the real feel to playoff hockey, and we're seeing it now. And it's tough. And I actually went on Vancouver radio yesterday on Sportsnet 650, I believe, and they said we're giving him the full Mitch Marner treatment. Like, I know Toronto's maybe a little bit louder.
Vancouver radio's is doing fan call-ins these days.
Yeah, I dialed in. First time.
What do they refer to? Let me ask you a question. When Vancouver radio brings you on, what do they call you?
NHL host and analyst for the Daily Faceoff, which I am.
Okay.
Am I not?
I don't know, analyst might be a strong word, but we'll let you pretend to be one on TV.
I analyzed the shit out of that Evan Bouchard game-winning goal yesterday because I said the wingers were too low and you liked their positioning. Well, guess what? They got scored on.
I had no issue with the depth of where they were. I had an issue with where their
I'm a better analyst than you.
And you're right. That's a funny joke. What are we going back to April Fools here, Johnny boy?
Vic goes, did you shout out our show? You fuck. Of course I shouted out the show. I talk about it on every show I go on.
You gave a little plug to Morning Cup of Hockey because Vic and I saw you go on NHL Network recently, and you didn't plug Morning Cup of Hockey on NHL Network.
That was through Believe.
What an opportunity to plug our show, and you didn't. Meanwhile, I'm doing national broadcasts on ESPN, plugging our show and getting shit for it from my bosses, but still doing it and not worried about the shrapnel that I'm about to take for plugging other properties.
My mom just texted me and goes, can Colby at least once say you're good at your job?
I did. What I gave you, I said such nice things to you earlier.
I love when my mom gets like mad at you. It's so funny. But shout out mom for listening. And Colby, answer my mom's DMs, dude.
Oh right. Man. So how do you let me ask you, I want to stay with this Edmonton Vancouver series because I do think there's some intrigue. We'll get to our Betway bet of the day. We'll get to that in a little bit, but I want to stay with a couple of big tickets and big talking points. And we'd like to hear from you all in the chat as well on this, but do the Edmonton Oilers go back to Calvin Pickard, or do they try to give Skinner another opportunity? Like, what do you do here? Because you can't afford to lose Skinner for the rest of the playoffs. You just can't. I think that's way too big of a risk. But, Picard did enough to win the other game. So
did you just call him Pickard and then Picard? You changed
Pickard. Sorry. Yeah. Jesus. Pronunciation is always my strong suit.
You did both ways.
Listen, what do they do? In your opinion, I want you to put your coach's hat on for a second here. Who are you starting? Because whoever you think, I want everyone to go and bet the opposite of that.
Yeah, I've been
on Betway.
Every time I've been off on this. But I'm saying Pickard. I mean, like, how could you go back to Skinner when the guy won you he won you the game? I mean, he didn't win you the game, but he played good enough to get you the win, only let up 2 goals and had a shutout going to the third period. Like, how could you not ride that guy? Right? Like, I think it'd be silly to go back to Skinner, even though I know the other side of that. You're going to say, well, if you don't go with Skinner twice in a row, you're basically taking him out of the net for good, right? Because
Oh wow,
having to throw him back in there.
We just got a poll put up in the YouTube chat. Look at that producing from our guy producer Vic. So far, everybody's dropping in the chat that they think it should be Pickard.
Yeah.
So let me talk about this a little bit. I think you're right in the fact that you won a game with Pickard, so you got to go back to him. So the only thing I want to just jump into a little bit, and again, I'm coming at this maybe high level, not necessarily granularly, because I never played goalie, neither did you. Can't pretend to understand the mentality, but Pickard's used to being a backup goaltender. Okay, so he's
his first playoff start,
right? But he's used to coming in and then not playing for a little bit, and then having to come in, right? I know there were times where he played a couple of games in a row during the season. But I just wonder, is going with him 2 in a row the play when you do have a guy in Skinner that you need to be better? And if you're going to get through the series and go to the conference finals, you're going to need Skinner. So do you give Skinner another opportunity to redeem himself, to come back tonight, get a win, redeem yourself, and be the starting goalie? And if it doesn't work out, you can always go back to Pickard, a guy who's used to coming in and then not playing and then coming back in. So that's the only side of the argument that I want to throw out there that I do think you got to at least consider and think about, is all I'm saying. And that's why, I think that it's at least worth sort of conversation if putting Skinner back in might be the right move. And that's why I think it might be the right move.
We have a funny comment from Donnie Berger in the chat. He's not even an analyst now; he's a coach. I thought that was pretty. That made me laugh.
Donnie Berger. I don't know if I've ever seen Donnie Berger in the chat before.
Me either, but it's got to be someone that we know, because that is. I mean, that's from the movie That's My Boy. I don't think that's it can't be a real YouTube name. There's no way.
I don't know that. I'm not sure I know that movie.
Oh, it's Adam Sandler. It's hilarious. You don't know that movie?
I don't know if I've seen that one.
Oh my God, that's like one of the fucking best movies ever. I mean, actually, it's objectively terrible, but I love it.
That sounds more like it.
That sounds more like it.
That sounds more like it. I'm glad you corrected on that one.
Yeah. Well, people in the chat, let me know if you love the movie That's My Boy, because I think it's one of Adam Sandler's best. But listen, I think as far as the mentality goes, like with Skinner, does it really fucking matter if Pickard can get the job done?
Yeah, but are you putting the trust in Pickard now to take you through?
But you don't. Okay. But you don't trust Skinner either,
right?
So what does it matter?
Does Skinner not get another chance? I don't know. Look, John Goyens is in on our show today. John Goyens was a head coach in the Quebec Major Junior League. He's coached at much higher levels than either of you or I have. John, I want to know from you, if you can put it in the chat, what you think about that goaltending situation. Do you go back to Skinner or do you ride Pickard? Like, these are decisions you've had to make in your career. And for the reasons that I just gave, am I off base? Am I crazy? I kind of love to hear from what you think, because again, you've been in playoffs before. You've had to make these decisions, not in the NHL, but still in the Quebec Major Junior League. And I know you've consulted for NHL teams and you've been in and around these NHL teams and in coaching roles. So he says Pickard. So, look, I'll digress. Like I made the argument for why I thought you might think about Skinner, but I'll lean on the fact that John Goyens has been a head coach at a high level and says 100% you go back to Pickard, and you give Pickard another chance and you see what happens. And then again, if they lose, well then, they got to go back to the drawing board and kind of figure out who and what goes next. So it's fascinating though, that another playoff, and we're talking about goaltending in Edmonton. It seems like this is a common theme. And will definitely be one of the things that Ken Holland is remembered for, is he's never able to find a goalie. He struck out with Jack Campbell, and he's never been able to go out and find a goalie when there's always been rumors of guys connected to Edmonton, and it continues to hurt them.
Mm-hmm. And I think the goaltending in the playoffs has been somewhat like so ass backwards, right? Like Hellebuck gets shelled. Boston's not doing their rotation. We got Artur Shilov's a third string goalie, like playing well. Pickard now in that it's been a weird playoff for goaltending, it feels like, right?
And
Also,
John
I got to address
Skinner's not a 1A, so that's why he doesn't get the same. You always go back to him, and that's a fair point. And Neil said Pickard could be the next Aiden Hill this year. You never know. Yeah, I mean, maybe. Look, anything's possible, but I haven't quite seen that body of work from him.
Mm-hmm. And I just want to address a really funny comment from Weinberg 85. Saying That's My Boy is a good movie is like saying a 3-0 lead is not commanding.
So
Chat's,
like I thought it
that's fucking
be.
killing me today. I'm like having a hard time containing my laughter, to be honest. And I needed the laughter this morning because I'm nervous.
David Wilson said Skinner in because Colby placed a big bet on Vancouver. No big bets for me. I save my big bets for when the majors come around. That's when I really start to turn into a little bit of a degenerate gambler. I don't go too hard on hockey. I might sprinkle a couple of bucks here and there, but we appreciate the lead into our Betway Bet of the Day segment, David Wilson. And we're still running this great promotion with Betway of a free $200 bet reimbursement if that bet doesn't win. Create a new account with the QR code on your screen. That QR code will automatically load you into the promo. Once you make the bet, if it doesn't hit, you'll get your $200 reimbursed. You can then use that $200 to try to make your money back. Keep betting, work the parlays. We got 2 games tonight. There's different things to look at. The shot props, the anytime goals, they've been pretty juicy. I feel like we're on a streak of about 5 out of 8 in our last 8 bets for 2 weeks. I know we missed a couple, but 5 out of 8's been pretty good for us. So take advantage of these opportunities with Betway, available only outside of Ontario. And as always, bet responsibly. Don't bet the rent. All right. Don't bet the college fund. Let's make sure we do these things responsibly. Be like Jonny, sprinkle a couple of bucks here and there. Do it with money you're going to lose.
Beer money. Beer money. Buy the drinks. Pay for the rounds.
Exactly. It's beer money, and then you won't have to drink the beer, and then you don't get the beer gut for the summer. We're going to go JT Miller anytime goal. All right. You've got a player who is a competitor. He's a warrior. He's had a good playoff. And he was sort of called out by his coach, not directly after the last game. He then texted Rick Tocchet about how disappointed he was with himself. You got to think JT Miller comes back with a vengeance, like Cale Makar did, like Nate McKinnon did. These are top-end players. These are top-end leaders. And these guys it does not sit well with them when they turn in those types of performance under the microscope of the playoffs and the national media. And I expect a big night out of JT Miller tonight in that Edmonton-Vancouver game on home ice. Those fans, man, in Vancouver,
unreal.
They're loud. They're into it. The whole city will be celebrating this game all day, drinking. The Roxy will be off the walls tonight in Vancouver. So I think JT Miller is going to get a goal. But who do you think is going to win this hockey game, Jonny?
I'm so careful. I just know I'm going to text from you later. Oh, Jonny said on the show that look, Vancouver's going to win. Edmonton's up.
Well, but let me just say this. On our show, you pick one team.
I know.
And then later in the day, you'll put your official bet up on your Twitter feed, and it'll be the other team. So all you do is hedge. So the next day on our show, you can say, well, what are you talking about? On my betting, I picked the right team. But Jonny, on our show, you picked the wrong team.
Yesterday, I'll be honest. You altered my decision yesterday. You convinced me to take Colorado.
What do you mean I convinced you to take Colorado?
On the show, you said Colorado, and then I said Dallas on the show. And then later on, when I write my gambling article for VSiN, I was feeling good about Colorado from what you said. You altered my decision-making. But I didn't want to give you that credit.
Okay.
And now I'm doing it.
Okay.
So fuck you.
What are you, Kevin Hart at the Tom Brady roast? Every
little bit. Fuck you, Tom. I love him.
That was funny.
He's so funny, dude. I love him.
That was really funny. So who do you like tonight? Do you like Edmonton or do you like Vancouver?
Gut says Vancouver, but like heart says Edmonton. I'm rooting for Calvin Pickard, honestly. I want to see him do well. And I want to see Edmonton have a goalie that can do well and win them hockey games. Like, I think, me and Vic were actually talking about this, like which player right now needs the cup the most for like their own legacy, like whether it's within their own team or just league wide or sports wide. And the longer we go without Connor McDavid reaching the Stanley Cup final or even winning one, it's gonna not kill the sport, but like you need your best fucking player that's like almost ever played the game to win a Stanley Cup. Like it'll be talked about so much more. I mean, think about, you might hate this, but like when LeBron won his first NBA championship, like it was something that was talked about for ages, like finally doing it, even though he did it in the way that he did it, going to Miami and forming a big three. But you know what I mean? Like it just has to fucking happen for Connor McDavid.
Yeah.
He's what, 27 years old now?
He's getting up there. Wait, can I address a couple of things in the chat here?
Yeah. Ovechkin also took a long time.
We've got, well, first off, we've got Elias Pettersson he's watching our show today and he's in our chat, and he would like Skinner to play because I think he believes that it'll be easier to score goals on Stuart Skinner apparently. And I guess Elias Pettersson, who doesn't like doing media, is now in the chat of our show. I'm laughing because anytime I ever do the Oilers Nation stuff and I do any of their live shows, almost every Oilers player apparently watches and comments. There's all their alter egos are in that show. And it's just really funny the way they all represent the players in that show. So I laugh when I just saw Elias Pettersson come into our chat, and Weinberg said, Johnny's mom is going to come on the show tomorrow to yell at me, to tell me to be nicer to Johnny. I'm always nice to Johnny off camera. I promise.
That's not fully true.
You deserve a lot of it.
And Colby yesterday texted me. He goes, I literally hate you so much today, and I don't know why.
You were doing something. You deserved it.
Yeah.
So look, so
but I don't go tell the refs on you though.
Here's the thing. You just gave us a my heart says one thing and my gut says the other. Yeah. So here's the reality. Edmonton. Who is going to win tonight's hockey game? Edmonton
Oilers.
Or Vancouver?
Oilers.
You like the Oilers?
Because of that, I'm sticking with the theme of Game 5, home ice, too much pressure on the home team. The road teams won it almost every time in these playoffs. I'm sticking with Edmonton. Even though those were 3-1 situations, this is 2-2. But I think Edmonton for sure. I like Edmonton.
Well, David Wilson thinks hat trick for Elias Pettersson tonight.
That'd be something, huh?
Look, if he does have a hat trick tonight, we know it's because he got the morning cup of hockey bump. And he came on our show this morning. He got in the chat, and then he went out and had a hat trick. You know what? I think I like Edmonton to win this hockey game too. I really do. And I do think there's some question about who's going to start in goal, because there were comments from Knobloch that said they might get Skinner back in there. I digress to lean on what John Goyen said, who's our resident coach at Daily Faceoff. He said Pickard. We'll see what ends up happening. We'll follow that. Look at Frank's Twitter throughout the day. I'm sure they'll talk about it on DFO Live today. This will be our last show of the week. So come Monday, we'll obviously have a lot to talk about. And there'll be hopefully a number of teams will be through. Well, no matter what, teams will be through, because even if we have a couple of game 7s, we'll get to them this weekend. Right. So I think Edmonton's going to win tonight. I think they're going to break this every other situation. And I think Leon Draisaitl, who's been the best Edmonton Oiler, is going to continue that. And, you got to think McDavid has more to give. And it's funny to hear me say that, but I still think there's more for him to give. And we'll see what happens. It's obviously going to favor Rick Tockett's matchups. They'll get Carson Soucy back. So, they're going to be able to get those top 6 matchups that they're looking for. But he did split McDavid and Draisaitl, Knobloch I'm talking about. So again, that creates a little more difficulty for a coach that's looking for a certain, D matchup with Soucy and Tyler Myers. Are you going to throw him out against McDavid? Are you going to throw him out against Draisaitl? Kind of just depends, right? So a lot of intrigue in that series. I wish those games didn't start at 10 o'clock, because I seem to always miss at least the last 10 minutes of the third period, where I'm, giving myself one of these to try to keep myself up.
And Colby, just to kind of wrap up this Edmonton-Vancouver talk, we have 74 votes right now on the poll. 85% of people say Calvin Pickard will start in Game 5. And if all 74 of those people can go like the show, that would be very helpful. It's just
like and subscribe.
It's easy.
A couple of people said today that they didn't realize they weren't subscribed to the YouTube page. So give that a look, give that a like, give our episode a subscribe.
Or else Colby's going to go on a 10-minute rant on why you should.
No, that's not going to be what I do. But we'll see what happens. We'll see if Johnny's going to be the saddest puppy in the world on Monday with the Rangers out of the playoffs, or if he's going to be the happiest guy alive and Lafreniere is going to have 2 goals and he's going to wear his signed Lafreniere jersey on Monday. Lot of things up in the air for our pal Jonny right now with the emotions of this playoff. That's a cool hat. Is that a Coyotes hat?
It is a Coyotes hat. Yeah,
that's cool. It's kind of a big front, but it's cool.
It's a little, but it's retro now because they don't exist anymore.
But you're cool and you're young, so you can pull that stuff off.
You just call me cool.
Don't ruin it. You're good at ruining it. You do this
with
Lafreniere.
Right?
You do this with Lafreniere all the time. I go to give Lafreniere a comment, and then you ruin it by calling him Wayne Gretzky.
Because I already clipped it.
All right, look, take us to a final word, Jonny, and then let's end the show. Like and subscribe. Don't forget it. We'll have our stuff out on social media later. Get involved. We love it.
Yep.
You guys are making our show a lot better than it probably would be without you guys giving us a lot of these things to get in on and get around on.
Yeah, very fun week. Big thanks to the chat. Big thank you to Vic, who crushed it as always. And remember, if you're in New York City tonight, come by American Whiskey. I'll be there at around 6 p.m. I'll be watching the entire Game 6 between the Rangers and Hurricanes at that bar. It's going to be a lot of fun, hopefully, if the Rangers come out and perform. So come hang out. We'll shoot the shit. We'll drink some beers, do some Jello shots. And,
Johnny's buying.
I'm buying. So great week, Colby. Good stuff. And we'll talk to you all on Monday. Have a great weekend.
What's up, hockey fans? If you enjoyed that video, then you need to be hitting the subscribe button right here at Daily Faceoff. Exclusive interviews and analysis from our hockey insider Frank Saravalli, fantasy updates from Brock Sagan, and a daily live show at noon Eastern, Monday through Friday. You don't want to miss any of the